everything about Warren Buffett's Chevron investment is looking in the rear view mirror at a business that used to be profitable, that used to look good, and now is just frankly dying. And I think you can even take a look at, I have Hypercharts here pulled up for Chevron, which I think is hilarious. Oh, this is actually one thing I wanted to show y'all first. This is Berkshire Hathaway stock against the S&P 500, which I think is really interesting because Warren Buffett, as much as he's sort of like an idol of ours, has kind of been underperforming for years and has actually underperformed the S&P in the past 5 years and in the past 10 years and in the past 2 years and in the past 1 year. So Warren Buffett has chronically performed the S&P. I say buying Berkshire Hathaway is basically like buying the S&P 500 without the good tech stocks. Like that's basically what it is. And yeah, I think the only good tech stocks are where all the value is, and that's why the companies underperform. So this isn't me crazy talking about Warren Buffett's looking in the rearview mirror, but I really think there's an element to all of this that is. I'm going to pull up the financials of Chevron just so we can go through the numbers with y'all to show you. This is what Chevron's financials are. As you can see, has been declining dramatically because of coronavirus, and even before the coronavirus was already shrinking as a company. Profitability getting hit. This trajectory of constantly growing and expanding has finally been hit. And you have a significantly more expensive company now that is just, these financials speak for themselves. It was an awful year. They finally lost money, and Chevron still pays a dividend. And so that's what's so interesting about these stocks. We can get into this part of the theory is, most people holding Chevron stock are holding it because of the dividend, which is so fascinating because they're not looking at the financial statements. They're just expecting to get this payout. And so then the second that payout stops, all the shareholders freak out because they're not getting a dividend and the stock just crumbles. And so the problem with companies like Chevron is they're in this dividend aristocrats sort of bucket of these companies who have raised their dividend for, decades and never not raised their dividend. And so investors kind of just give them all this benefit of the doubt and brand equity that the dividend will continue. But now that whole dividend, I think the principle of Exxon being profitable is changing. As you saw their financials, they're losing money now. I think that entire theory and just it's a massive house of cards, I think, and it's been significantly overinflated because the dividend has propped up the valuation and has sort of protected them from true financial analysis. So I don't know. I think it's fascinating, and I do think we're still going to need to rely on oil for the next decade or two as we transition to electric vehicles. But what I think is so important is the idea about investing in things that are awesome and sustainable in the future. Forward-thinking endowments are divesting from fossil fuels. Forward-thinking, sovereign wealth funds are divesting from. Even Saudi Arabia is divesting from fossil fuels. You know what I mean? They're the king of oil. That's the other thing of why I think Chevron and a lot of these oil companies are just frankly horrible economic propositions. I mean, you're not competing in the free market against other oil companies that are small. You're competing against nation states with far lower costs of capital, far lower extraction costs than you. I mean, I think as the demand for oil dwindles, you get a significant pricing war going on where nation states gets more desperate and cut costs dramatically. And you have a decades-long, price sink for oil as demand is frankly falling and supply is overblown. And then what does that create? That creates all the companies are going bankrupt way before the nation states do because they can just hold on longer. So I think that's another fascinating proposition of where it just makes so little sense on so many levels. But getting back to the important positivity part of this, I just think it's so important that us as sort of young investors and people looking at the markets now make this connection that I'm putting my money, I feel like we lost the idea of what is investing? It's okay, I'm in my little town. I see a guy down the street who's got an idea. He's in his garage. He's scheming and tinkering. He's yo, I'm so close to building my prototype of my thing, but I just need a couple $100 more bucks to get this part. And I already maxed out all my own money. And if you give me that couple $100, I can actually build this product and then we can actually bring it to the world. And then and you're wait, that's going to be a dope thing. I want to give that, I want to see that product spread. I want to see this change occur. And that's why you invest in something. You invest in the future you believe in, and you actually invest in businesses to create them. And so I think we've totally lost that concept. And that's why, getting this Buffett Wall Street mentality of it's just a spreadsheet, businesses on a spreadsheet, how do we make the most money, is such a backwards way of looking at companies. And I even wonder, in the future, money is just a symptom of okay, the company generates money, so we can have money, so we can get stuff. Well, what if we just want the stuff the company's building? I'm a Tesla shareholder. Most of the stuff I want is just stuff that Tesla's building. What's the point of cashing it into fiat and then paying Tesla in fiat? Is the future of, should I be an investor in a company to use their service? I don't know. I think there's a real kind of awakening occurring at where we're actually realizing that these aren't just spreadsheets. There's actually a business behind every stock, and those businesses are all totally different, and they're all doing things in the world. And the stock market is a very real way that we dictate the way those businesses change the real world. Like if we're continue to giving Chevron capital to do new projects, they're just going to keep drilling oil. But if we all stop funding them to give them new projects, then they won't.